Not knowing is the absolute worst feeling I know, because I went through this. And we're going to talk about what it is that your ex is doing, like why your ex is avoiding you. But I want to just let you know that I can relate. Why do exes avoid you? Well, my ex started avoiding me at the end of our last relationship. He wanted to break up. I did not. And we were in therapy, I thought, to help fix things. I had requested that we get into therapy together, and I wanted to work things out, and he did not. And so he started avoiding me. He started avoiding me at home. You know, he'd get distant. He didn't want to talk to me. He didn't want to be involved when I started conversations, and then it progressed from there. As the months rolled on and we had therapy appointments, he would show up and I would express that, you know, I didn't want to break up. This was not what I wanted, and we were figuring that out with a therapist, I thought. But then he started canceling therapy appointments together, and I would go in by myself because I needed the help, but he would not. He would just say at last minute he couldn't show up, and that was hard. That hurt. You know, I was going through this emotional time, and this was the person who I relied on for support during emotional times, and he was basically abandoning me. I felt hurt. I felt betrayed. I felt devastated. I felt like I was relying on that therapist's support because I was not going to be able to make it through this. And instead of him being supportive and like gently, if he wanted to break up, he could have done it gently. He wasn't doing that. And so time rolled on, less therapy appointments. He started not coming home. I had questions about where he was and what was going on. And basically I wanted to know, why was he avoiding me? So I've come up with some answers for why he might have been avoiding me, but I want to give you some possibilities for your situation so you can figure it out for yourself. Let's start with maybe would be the obvious answer to why your ex avoids you, or why exes avoid you in general. And that would be that maybe they're still angry. Maybe there's something that you did, or maybe they perceived that you did. Maybe their heart is broken, and the way that they deal with heartbreak is to get angry. They're frustrated. You know, no relationship's perfect. We all have our arguments. We all have the things that we do wrong. That's okay. People make mistakes, but it's possible that they're still dealing with it, and the way they're dealing is to be angry at you. With my ex, he used to give me the silent treatment all the time, and I didn't always even know why he was giving it to me, but I could tell that he was angry in some way, or he felt bad about himself. I don't know. I really don't know, but all I could interpret was that he was angry at me. And when he gave me the silent treatment, a lot of the time I didn't give in to that right away. You know, I'm my own person, and that's not how I feel like you should treat me, so I didn't want to give in to the silent treatment, and I don't think he liked that. I think that made him more angry at me. You know, right before we break up, I actually suspect this was like the thing that made us break up. There was something that happened where he probably felt rejected by me. It was not intentional. He was already giving me the silent treatment, but this is how things are. I have to think through his perspective if I want to understand the way he's feeling. And so my ex, I think, was still angry at the end of our relationship, and that might have been the cause for the breakup. When somebody's angry, that's not something that just like goes away in a day. Sometimes that takes a while, and sometimes we think over and over and over in our head. We repeat the situation over and over, and we get ourselves more and more and more angry, especially when we're left alone. But ironically, if somebody's angry at you, they're going to want to spend less time with you. They're going to want to be alone, and this could be why they're avoiding you. And really, when somebody's angry at you, it's not going to be that helpful to try to push them to communicate with you. That's not really going to take them out of their anger. You can express that you feel sorry about the way they feel. You can express that you feel sorry about what you did. But if you don't feel sorry, there's no requirement that you all of a sudden be sorry. You may have even experienced that yourself, where you were angry and you had this period where you're pissed off that they even wanted to break up with you and end this relationship. You may still feel that way. So maybe you can relate to them. Let's get to another reason. Another reason why they could be avoiding you, why your ex is avoiding you, is because they are just plain overwhelmed. You know, a breakup is overwhelming for anybody. I'm sure you feel that way too. Breakups are hard. Everybody gets overwhelmed and emotional at the end of a relationship, even if they don't think they do. Maybe they clamp down on those emotions and that's their way of dealing, but even that creates stress in your body. Sometimes people have dealt with those emotions beforehand, before the breakup, and maybe that's why they're avoiding you, because they don't feel as strongly as you do. But most people, just being around you, you are a reminder of an intense relationship, which maybe sometimes got overbearing, overwhelming, and if they don't know how to relate to their emotions, if they don't have a language for their emotions, if they don't know how to express their emotions, they could be overwhelmed. I know that I was overwhelmed during this breakup. I didn't know how to feel. I was hurt, I was devastated, but I was also angry, and I didn't know, should I be communicating my anger? Should I be communicating that I was sad? Should I be communicating at all? And in a way, you could almost say that I was avoiding my ex, even though he was really avoiding me. When somebody's overwhelmed, they may not want you to communicate with them, and so I was trying to communicate as best I could and as often as I could without feeling like I was going to overwhelm him, but I feel like he might have still been overwhelmed anyway. He was already probably angry at me, and then he was still overwhelmed by the whole situation, which he didn't really want to deal with. I think that was his mentality. He didn't want to deal with it because he couldn't handle his emotions, basically. He didn't know how to regulate his own emotions. I didn't either, but there we were. I was trying to get help from the therapist, but if he was overwhelmed and he wasn't getting help from the therapist because he was canceling all those appointments, that's possibly why he was avoiding me. And it could be that's why your ex is avoiding you too, is that they just don't know how to handle this kind of a situation, so they avoid it altogether. All right, so another reason why your ex could be avoiding you, why exes avoid you, is that they could be feeling scared. They may not know what to do with this emotion. If you were the one that broke up with them, then it's only kind of natural that they're scared. You put them in a place where they don't know what to do. Maybe they want to please you, they want to work things out, but they don't know what to do. And on the other side, if you are the one who they have broken up with, then they may be scared that they made the wrong decision. They may have decided this not being fully confident that this was the right thing to do. I'll repeat it again. Breakups are hard for everybody involved, whether you're the person who's being broken up with, whether somebody else breaking up with you, whether it's mutual. It's just hard. You are breaking up an intimate bond with somebody that you care about deeply. Even if it doesn't seem that way, even if it seems like there's a lot of anger and a lot of hurt and you're just done, there's still pain involved. There's still pain underneath all of that, even if you've shut it all off, even if you can't feel it. So it's possible that they're feeling scared right now. There's a lot of things to consider when you break up with somebody. You know, there's that connection that's breaking, but there's also things like finances, where everybody's going to live. Is everybody going to get through this okay? Jobs and all of this. It all gets tied into an intimate relationship, especially if you've been together for a long time, and it's scary to change around your entire world. Even if it's something that you want to do, it's still scary because you don't know what the future is going to look like. I've talked before on my channel about how we have the fight, flight, or freeze reaction when we feel frightened by something. It's that fear system in our body, and when that fear system activates, which can happen when somebody close to you is moving away, and the panic system also comes online, we can freeze. We can feel like we don't know what to do, and that may be why your ex is avoiding you, because they don't know what to do and they feel frozen. Maybe they can't even articulate how they're feeling. They're just scared. When my ex broke up with me, I was terrified of making the wrong move and saying the wrong thing and pushing him further away or jeopardizing what the possibilities for the future could even be. So that could be what's going on in your ex's head too. Another thing that we have to consider, and I know this is probably like the last thing that we want to consider, but it's a possibility, it was definitely a possibility in my case, is that they're avoiding you because they just want to move on. They're not interested in talking about emotions. They're not interested in figuring things out. They're done. That's painful and that hurts, of course. And again, they may not know how to deal with emotion, but that may be why they are avoiding you, because they don't know how to deal with all of this, but they've made their decision that it's over and they're just trying to move on as best they can. And sometimes that's why that's how we move on. We move on through cutting off contact, and I did a video about why your ex has blocked you if you want to learn a little bit more about that. My ex had made the decision that he was done, that this relationship was over, and no amount of me communicating with him, no amount of therapy, no amount of nothing was going to change that decision from him, as far as I can tell, because he didn't change that decision. He never came back. He never wanted to work things out, and eventually I got tired and I didn't want to deal with it anyway myself, and I started to ignore him myself, and I started to avoid him. So that's how that worked out. I think it's important to remember that yes, it's very painful when an ex avoids you. It doesn't matter what the reasoning is. So if that's what you're going through right now, I'm sorry you're going through that, and I want you to know that I understand it, and there are many other people who understand it too. Everyone can get through this, and you can get through it too. Something to think about here, you're thinking a lot about your ex, right? And why your ex is doing this. Why is your ex avoiding you? try not to get too caught up in what your ex is doing and why they're doing the things that they do, because yes, I understand why that's important to you. It was definitely important to me. I was trying to make things work, so I don't want you to feel like there's anything wrong with that. But don't neglect your own needs too, because you have needs and you have desires, and to always put all of yourself away to try to please your ex, that's not going to help. That's just going to make you feel worse. It's going to drop your self-esteem. And ultimately, it's not going to be that appealing to your ex to get back together with you if you give away all of yourself. Angry, uncomfortable, sad, and just wanting to move on. These are the reasons I've listed here. What do you think about all of this? Do any of these match your ex's behavior? Let me know down below in the comments.